It's such a pleasure to talk to both of you. We've talked before, and for my listeners, if you go to, uh, I don't remember exactly which season, maybe season two and season three, but you go back in the earlier seasons and you will see that I had a great interview with Sissy before, Sissy Goff, and then another interview with David Thomas when they were writing different books as well, Raising Confident. I have them right here trying to remember the names of the books. I interviewed so many people, but they
Of
were
course.
incredible.
Sure.
Tell me your the books that I interviewed you for, just so that people can remember. Number
Mine
one,
was raising emotionally strong boys.
that's right.
And I think mine may have been the worry-free parent
That's it. The
or
worry free.
raising worry-free girls. I can't remember.
No, I think it was a worry free parent. I think it
Okay.
was yes.
Yes.
And so incredible books. And I actually gave
Thank you.
copies of your book away to a couple of friends who are
Oh,
raising kids still. Are
Thank
grown.
you.
Although I feel like we're always kind of raising them, you know.
Indeed.
yes.
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 Well, but I'm very excited about this book that y'all wrote. And here's my video again. Um, I am very excited about this new book, Capable: How to Teach Your Kids the Strengths, Skills, and Strategies to Build Resilience. I love it because we know that there is a resilience issue going around right now. It's almost a crisis here, right? What did y'all find out? I know from your practice, but also from research.
Well, that is exactly what we've been calling it, a crisis of capability. And we're seeing it in kids of all ages. And to be honest, we're seeing it in parents too. And we know the Surgeon General has not only said there's this crisis of mental health among kids, but he issued the warning about parents as well. And you know, we talk so much about how we know the rates of anxiety and depression are going up around with kids, also the rates of suicidality and younger ages. And so, as therapists, there's so much that we do to help kids reactively, offering tools and strategies and all these things to help them cope when all of that sets in. But we're ready to do some preventative work is really the heart behind this book to say let's do something where we can value resilience more than rescue or relief, which is so much of where we land so often in this culture today.
So I know that you have cared and still care for thousands of kids and families in your practice. And you have noticed like a huge change, right, in in the last decade. And we talked about it even in your earlier books about the crisis that you just mentioned, mental health crisis and everything. But about capability, what have you noticed in the past like decade?
There really has been a significant shift we've seen, and we've both been doing this work for over 30 years. So we've seen a lot of evidence of things shifting and changing, both with kids and parents over time. And I'll talk first about some changes I've seen in my work with boys, and Sissy, you talk about it with girls. But I remember noting years ago how often I found myself having conversations with adolescent young men or with their parents about a resistance to getting a driver's license. That 30 years ago, at the beginning of my work, I never remember having that conversation. I don't remember encountering a single adolescent boy who wasn't chomping at the bit to get
Yeah.
his driver's license and experience the independence that came with that. And now that's a common conversation I'm having with parents of how do I motivate him to want to do this? And if we track that back into boyhood, I've never heard as many parents talk about boys resisting joining a club or a sports team. Boys in high school who are resistant not just to getting their driver's license, but asking a girl to a homecoming dance.
Yeah.
Boys who are resistant to pursuing college. And all of that falls within a bigger category of what I call just avoiding healthy risk. And I think to the degree that boys get in a pattern of avoiding risk in the smaller things in life, it makes sense to me why the stats are through the roof of young men between 18 and 34 who are still living at home. The failure to launch
Yeah.
phenomena has grown exponentially with young
Incredible.
adult males. And so, to Sissy's great point, we want to be thinking about what could we be doing all along the road of development to get in front of this so that I hope we can shift the numbers around the failure to launch phenomena, particularly in what I'm seeing with boys. Sissy, talk about what you're seeing with girls.
Well, I'm seeing that same avoidance of risk with girls. And we talked last time about how girls are twice as likely as boys to deal with anxiety. And we're now seeing 1 in 4 kids, 1 in 3 adolescents are dealing with it. And there are so many, I think we were moving this direction anyway to this crisis of capability, and COVID just catapulted us in that direction. And so part of where I'm seeing it show up the most with girls is with social anxiety. And whereas when we were growing up, we were getting together with friends outside of school regularly, having play dates at younger ages, sleepovers at older ages. And I'm seeing more kids than ever before who don't know how to reach out to a friend, don't know how to make a new friend. Even their established friendships, they are in their heads constantly thinking, do my friends still like me? Do they want to spend time with me? And I'm having parents say to me, I don't know why my daughter doesn't want to get together with people outside of school. But they're not only refusing to step into those places, but I think as a result are also involved in less activities and reaching out less across the board, taking risks less across the board. And so we really are wanting to give kids some practical strategies. We have 100 what we call capable building exercises in the book that are practical things that we want kids to be learning to do because what's happening is there's this cycle of they're not taking risks and then they don't believe they're capable of taking risks. And so then they're that much more hesitant to do so. And I think in this day and time, parents are so worried about the mental health of their kids, they don't know when to push. They don't know how to support and challenge, like we talk about often, at the same time, the kids they love. They don't know what that looks like.
Absolutely. And I know that, of course, as a parent myself, even I have to ask, and I'm sure that a lot of parents are going to be asking as they hear this data and as we talk about this, what has gone wrong, right? Because we have something in somewhere in our culture, somewhere in this past decade. I know that so many things changed in our world in this past decade, but what has gone wrong? Where did we miss the signs that people are losing this ability to feel capable of taking risks, David?
Mhm.
Yeah. Well, I don't think there's any question in anyone's mind that technology has played a significant role. And I think, even to this idea of avoiding risk, it's never been easier for an adolescent boy to just stay in his room with a headset on and believe he's still engaging friends by gaming, where he's not getting those opportunities for real life interactions and the awkwardness that happens in conversation when I'm just sitting with a friend and things kind of slow down in the conversation and I've got to figure out how to move it forward. And so, we could talk at length about the role that technology has played in this equation, but I think as well, it's important that we think on our response as parents. And we talk in the book about how often every correction is an overcorrection. And I think for, a generation of parents who maybe grew up not feeling like their parents are really dialed into their experience, that they, had robust conversations around the table about things going on with their lives, and they might have felt missed. I think have overcorrected in doing an amazing job of connecting with kids and listening, but maybe at times over listening. And to Sissy's comment about support and challenge, knocking it out of the park in the support part of that equation, but missing the challenge part, which is every bit as foundational. And so we want kids to feel seen. We want them to feel known. We want them to feel heard and understood. And we also want them to feel uncomfortable. And we want them to experience healthy risk. And we want them to bump up against discomfort that's a part of what prepares them to be adults in this world. And I think in that overcorrection, we've done a lot, I think, to attempt to buffer the discomfort, which means there's not a context for really practicing the healthy coping that is fuel for our mental health and well-being.
Oh, Listen, David, as you're saying that, I'm thinking about this. I'm thinking about like our generation, because we're the three of us are probably about the same, from the
Yes.
same
Yes.
generation. So, I just think about my growing up, right? So I grew up with, my parents got divorced later, but grew up with both parents at home and middle class in Brazil. And we went to school, and I had sports, and I know I was played volleyball for all the way through college. And I remember this. My parents, I don't think that they watched one single volleyball game that I played, right? Not like
Yes.
they both worked. And it's not because they were not interested. They were excited when I came and we had won another championship, or they wanted to listen, whatever, but they just were not there, right? And then me and my husband, right? Not only did we get, I don't think we missed any games, but I also started coaching volleyball, and my girls started playing volleyball. And so I think about, so it's almost like we, our generation, try to course correct
Yes.
some of the places where we felt like our parents missed opportunities of connecting with us, as you just said. But it seems like we missed something along the ways. I mean, maybe now our children's generation, maybe we can teach them how to say, let's not go so much to the left, but not so much to the right. Let's find a
Yes.
perfect medium. So, Sissy, question for you: as you help mothers of girls and girls, what are some of the things that you are actually suggesting in your book, Capable, that are key for us to be able to have that balanced, and teach kids that we're here for you, but you have all the capability of doing things on your own, right?
Yes, I love that message. And you're right. It is, we have an entire chapter on the overcorrections that have happened and the different stages of parenting. And one of the things, probably my favorite quote from the book, it says that sturdy is better than success. Healthy is more important than happy. Resilience lasts longer than relief or rescue, and capable has more weight than confidence ever could. And I think we could even chronicle the decades of parents who were valuing success the most, which we still do today, happiness, relief and rescue, which is so much of what you all are talking about, where we've landed. And so to do something different, we really do believe we can change the game for the kids that we love. And even in small ways of practicing capable, but they've got to put themselves out there. And that's really why we have these strengths, skills, and strategies. And I'll go ahead and tell you one that I think is particularly important for girls, because in this age of anxiety, girls leading the statistics for anxiety, the coping strategy I have seen the most show up for them is control. So I feel out of control emotionally. I feel like things in my circumstances are out of control. And so I'm going to lock down on whatever it is, what I'm envisioning for the day, even. And so parents are reporting things like picking her up from school and changing the schedule, telling her something different is going to happen than she imagined. And she just completely melts down in the car. That there's a rigidity among girls and boys too, I think David would say, like we have never seen before.
Mm.
And so one of the strengths that we talk about that is crucial, and I think the three of us would agree, to navigating life as an adult, is flexibility. I mean, how
Yes.
many times in any given day are we called upon to be flexible? 35, probably at least. And
Yes.
so we are really concerned about these kids who are moving through the world desperately clinging on to this sense of control, because it's not going to work in the workplace. It's not going to work in their relationships. And so we have an entire chapter on what it looks like to practice flexibility with kids and do things. David and I speak a good bit, and he will at parenting seminars say, one thing we want you to do to practice flexibility is when you go to sit down at the dinner table tonight, move one seat to the left.
Mm.
And you should see the faces of the people in the audience. I mean, they look like we said, we want you to run out right now and run a 5K in whatever shoes you have on. I mean, they just look stricken, because
Uh-huh.
I think really, again, and we could say post COVID, but I think all of us are clinging to this sense of control, and it's not serving kids well. And so that is one silly practical what we call CBE, capable building exercise. But there are a lot of ways we need to be practicing flexibility with kids. Different ones doing the bedtime routine, different ones doing the drop off routine, helping them know this is a muscle we've got to grow to become healthy, capable adults.
Mm. Wow. So I know that in your book you give a lot of practical ideas like what you just did, right? And you talk about also the three C's of capability in your book. So can you unpack that a little bit and how they impact a child's capability?
We'd love to. And the three C's come from a definition we developed for capability. And we say that capable kids have practiced coping, so coping's the first C, and learned competence, the second C, for life's challenges. So coping, competence, challenges, and thinking about those in the everyday. To Sissy's great point a minute ago, all the different moments I'm going to have to deal with unpredictability, and that requires coping that builds confidence, and that builds confidence that leads to confidence. And if I'm not practicing in that direction, and back to the earlier question, if I'm a parent who's attempting to stand in the way of kids experiencing the plans changing or the discomfort of having to be flexible, that I pick you up at school and you thought we were going straight home and we've got to run 3 errands. If I'm avoiding those 3 errands because I think it might lead to a meltdown or a fall apart, I'm not creating opportunity for kids to practice the coping that builds this confidence and again ushers kids into the reality of the real world, which is it's full of challenges.
Mm. So true. And as you're talking about these things, and Sissy earlier you talk about control. I thought about I actually just before we started the interview, I have this board in front of my desk here, and it was from last year, the beginning of January, well, actually in December, where I was organizing my 2025, and so I was just putting my goal setting and all of those things and my success box, and I'm looking at in the Bible verse that God put in my heart, and I'm looking back and I'm thinking nothing went as I thought.
Yes.
We had it wasn't it was not very normal. It was not a normal year. We had some losses in our family. Both my
So
husband and
sorry.
I lost parents this past
Oh, I'm
year, and
so
Sorry.
sorry.
thank you. It's been a rough year, and then we've had loss of jobs, and just things that shifted our priorities. Family became our main focus.
Yes.
This past year, and then of course jobs and different things. And I thought about that as you were talking about these changes, the importance of being able to raise kids who they are going to be able to navigate changes in life because they are inevitable. And I think it's interesting that they are so desperate for control. And on the spiritual side of that, that is the one element and we need to have in order to be able to even follow God's plan for our lives,
Yes.
is to be able to relinquish control to Him
Yes.
and trust Him,
Amen.
right, for the next step
Yes.
on the way. So how important, not just for the kids' life and future and success in life in general, but even for spiritually speaking. Sissy, how do
Yes.
you see this playing a huge role in the spiritual well-being of our children?
Mm, I think you're exactly right. And I think it is significantly impacting them because David and I were actually talking a little earlier today about going to speak to some parents tomorrow. And we were remembering a friend named Suzanne Stabile who says, control is an illusion, but it's my favorite illusion. And it certainly is. And I think when we have our fingernails clinging to what we believe makes us safe, we don't experience the safety that comes from our sense of faith and from trusting God. And I think when we as adults are um, toiling is the word that comes to my mind. But when we're working so hard to operate as we are, I think with our own need for control, I don't think we're modeling for kids what it looks like to live into the truth of John 16:33 of in this world you will have trouble, but take heart, I've overcome the world. Because I think we somehow think we're going to be able to avoid the trouble. We're going to avoid it in ourselves and we're going to rescue them out of their own sense of trouble rather than going back to Romans 5 of suffering produces perseverance, perseverance, character, and character, hope. And as far as I have encountered in scripture, I've never seen another direct path to hope except that and Jesus.
Yeah.
And so that is the only place we get to land in a sense of trust that makes any kind of difference. But I think we've got to be not only modeling it, but using that language in front of the kids that we love, that they hear us even grapple with those kind of things out loud. I tried to take control again, but then I remembered John 16:33, or I remembered who really is in control and he loves me and I'm okay. That we're just narrating it for them in front of them.
It's an opportunity to help them grow their
Yes.
faith as well, right? That we
Yes.
miss if we don't address it in a healthy way, right? If we are the forever helicopter parent that's going to find a way to make them hurt less, which is our tendency, it's our desire. Of course, we hate to see our children hurt, but we are kind of clipping their wings, right? When we do that. David, and with that, how does the book, how does Capable help parents, equip parents? Because now we may be talking to a mama or a daddy who may say, you know, I messed it up. I messed it up. I have been the helicopter parent. I can see my kid. My kid is now 12, 13 years old, and I can see where they can't handle life. You know, they are not, I see that they don't feel capable of handling certain things. I totally messed up. How does your book, your practice, so your advice, how will it help them understand that it's not too late?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I think the
It is.
first reminder I would want to give parents is honestly the beautiful reminder you gave us a few minutes ago when you were talking about your daughters in this stage of life of we never stop parenting. I have kids in their mid-20s. They will still call for advice about different things along the way, which I absolutely love. And it is that reminder that we are always in that role. So because that's the case, it's never too late. We still have opportunity in front of us at all times. And Sissy and I love pushing back against, the age-old words of you can't teach an old dog new tricks. Well, I'm exhibit A that you actually can. Like, I love the fact that, none of the three of us are digital natives. So I have learned so much about technology because I've had to, and it's been difficult to learn at times, but it's been possible. And so I would want to remind parents that it's always possible to be learning new skills for any of us. And for us as parents, if the temptation has been strong to helicopter and to stand in the way of our kids experiencing disappointment, failure, or discomfort, then I can learn new ways of attending to the hard parts of that when I see it happening in front of me so my kids can, alongside giving them the space to develop these skills and strategies. And part of what felt important to us too in the book is to break it down into different ages. So we have, capable building exercises for all age individuals, but we've got some specific to littles, some specific to elementary age kids, some for middle schoolers, high schoolers, young adults. So our hope is in spanning development, we are offering something to wherever kids or young adults might be.
Oh, love that. That's great. I always say a book, especially a book like yours is not good until it actually gives you practical advice, right? You can find yourself in what's being taught or being talked about, and you can say, you know what, this will apply. I can take this home and actually apply it today and start changing the course of this today. Sissy, let me ask you this. So we may be talking also to teachers, to grandparents. I mean, different people who are somehow influencing a child's life or a teenager's life. So how can these communities partner with parents to raise capable kids?
Oh, I love that question. And I hope we are talking to educators and grandparents because you all are vital in the lives of kids and you're vital in the lives of parents, both. I mean, I think even as we're talking about our age bracket, I think we have a perspective that some of the younger parents are still gaining. And so if you're a grandparent listening, your voice is really important. I was thinking about how I have been seeing on social media that there is this resurgence of landlines right now, which I love that landlines are coming back because even as you were talking, Patricia, about your growing up, it made me think about a conversation I had with my sister and brother in law about landlines. And if you think about the phone rang in your home, you picked up the phone, it required flexibility because you didn't know who was going to be on it.
Yep.
Then you had to say, hello, Goff's residence, or whatever your parents taught you to say, how may I help you? You were being thoughtful of others in doing that. And then you had to be resourceful in figuring out what to do with whatever information you were given. My brother-in-law is on our development team in our practice at Daystar, and he has talked about how often he will take something to a person's home and drop it on their doorstep and ring the doorbell and see an adolescent who knows him run away so they don't have to answer the door. And I think that's part of where we're living again today with kids. And so I would say grandparents get landlines back or keep them if you've got them going already. And I think too, I mean, I have a 7 and a 3-year-old nephew, and I was just hanging out with them last night where their parents went on a date. And my nephew looked at me, my 7-year-old nephew looked at me and he said, he calls me Diddy. He said, Diddy, can I have some water? And it is so simple, but it is the easiest thing in the world for me to get up and go to get him water rather than saying, oh, Henry, you know how to grab it and just leave it there. But I think where can any of us who love kids surround them in ways where we're saying, you are so smart. I know you can figure this out. I can't wait to see the solution that you come up with, that we're giving them opportunities to problem solve, to reach up on the tippy toes of where they believe they're capable and really stretch and develop some of the strength that we know that's inside of them and we know that life will require of them. And so grandparents, educators, I think, how can we not step into those gaps too, just like parents are, because it's easy for us aunts to do it as well.
Yes, absolutely. And you know what? Unfortunately, the social media crisis goes way beyond our kids, right?
Yes.
We're seeing moms and dads that who are with their nose on their phones all day long, and uh, sometimes because you don't want to miss an opportunity, or you don't want to stop what you're doing, it's easier to just go there quickly and fix something for them instead of either teaching them how to do it or telling them you can do it. And I think that it's a wake up call for parents, big time, right? Not necessarily, oh, be guilt ridden that you've done something terrible in your upbringing. It's not that. You've been dealt a society that has been completely different from what you grew up in. So we got to give ourselves
Yes.
grace for that. We
Yes.
did not grow up in this society. So, parents who are thinking, oh my gosh, my kid, what's going on with this child? He's not, he seems to not be capable of making a decision, of going out, all of those things. And our tendency is to just look inward and say, I messed up, and it's just like, listen, you raised this kid in a total different environment than what you were raised. So give yourself some grace, right? And
Yes.
then it's like, find resources, as this wonderful book capable is, to say, you know what, I have two counselors who have listened and taken and helped thousands of families through the years, who have navigated this change, because you've been, you're not spring chicken. You're like me. You're not spring chicken. So you've seen at least
You.
a
You're right.
couple of generations,
That's
right?
right.
We got to let it work for us. All of us.
Gotta let it work. Exactly. So
Yes.
it's the beauty of getting older. You have seen quite a bit,
Indeed.
and
Yes.
you have treated or helped families through very difficult transitions. You're talking the pandemic, the huge shift in society. You can't compare the world before and after. It's not the same. We're not raising the same. We're not raising them in the same environment, right? And so I love this resource that you put together. And actually, I love it because so many counselors out there, there's thousands of counselors in the world. And so many out there, they just keep these gems that they find out through research and practice to themselves. And you do this beautiful job of putting together books and going out and speaking and helping people outside of your practice. So I appreciate you so much for that.
You're so kind. We're so grateful to know you and honored to get to have this conversation.
Oh, well, I appreciate you so much. And people, just go get this book, Capable. Grandparents, buy it, read it. Parents, read it. Help maybe somebody that you have a friend who's dealing with an issue. Maybe you are an aunt who you don't have a kid, but your nephew, your niece is struggling, and you can help them. I have all of the links as usual, and Sissy and David are giving away a copy of Capable to someone in my audience. All you have to do is fill out the form from the show notes, and do not miss a chance to grab a hold of this incredible book. Now, I need to ask you, as we're getting to the end of our show, would you like to say something else to someone in the audience who needs some encouragement today?
I would jump into exactly what you're saying about the parent who feels like my child's not capable, because what we're seeing parents do as a result, it's really the first generation of parents. I had a mom last week who said to me, my daughter was being super disrespectful at a family gathering. I got really embarrassed. I didn't know what to do. And so I went to the bathroom and I got on my favorite parenting apps chat and asked the bot what I should do to help my kids. And that story feels like stories I'm hearing a lot from parents. A mom said to me recently, it's like we have paralysis by analysis. And I think as you're talking about technology, that's part of the problem. And what David and I would want to say to any parent is, you know your kids better than anyone else, better than any expert out there, and you know exactly what they need. If you can quiet the voices of technology, all the things around you, and just trust your gut, you've got this. You are so much more capable than you know as a parent, and your kids are as well.
Well, I love that. That's such good advice. That's advice for me. I'm a parent of two adult kids in their 20s, but they are still single, and so they have the struggles, right? That every kid in their 20s nowadays, they still struggle with a lot of things. And I love that you said that trust your gut, and of course, trust what you know that's right. From being if you are a believer, if you're listening to this,
Amen.
and you are a Christian, you know that you have the help right within you of the Holy Spirit that can guide you. And sometimes that's exactly what's guiding you to the right answer. And you're right, we second guess a lot of times, right, David? Don't we? Like, for a second.
Indeed. Absolutely. I was thinking, Sissy, as you were telling that story, our slogan could be avoid the bot, trust your gut. And I love, Patricia, I love, to your wise words, we talk so often with parents about, unless I can quiet the voice of worry in my own head, I can't hear the voice of God. So it's difficult to trust that, knowing that the Holy Spirit is in me. And I know my kids well, and God's equipped me with what I need to care for these kids I've been given. But unless I can quiet the voice of worry, I can't access that wisdom. And so I think us doing our work as parents is one of the greatest gifts we have to offer to the kids we love. So I'm so grateful for you giving that reminder, Tricia.
Oh, absolutely. You know what? Maybe the three of us can write a book. I'll write it from the theology perspective, and we can do the stop the bot and trust your gut.
I love it.
And the Holy Spirit. The gut.
Yes.
Well, what a
Yes.
blessing it was to talk to both of you again. And I
You
hope that
too.
this is maybe another one even this year, because you have a lot to write and I love it.
Thank
It's
you.
a
Well, we're so
joy to be
grateful
with
for
you.
you.
Yes. Well, God bless you. And thank you so much for coming to God Side Stories.